And welcome to another edition of Triple Threat. We are the all-talk, no-music show online about the Beatles, The Who, Pink Floyd, and other things that we like. And I'm very excited for this episode. I'm Tom Maruzia, and joining me is my co-host Garrett Hicks. How you doing tonight, sir?
I am doing fantastic, sir.
Yeah, and by the way, listeners, we apologize if the audio is a little subpar. We are recording this a little bit differently than we usually do our shows, and there's also two of us because Becca couldn't be here and Avery couldn't be here for this. But we decided to get on with the show because this is a show that we really should have done like 5 weeks ago or something like that. But we're doing it, because we know you 16 subscribers were really looking forward to it. Well, I should say 14 because you and I are two of those.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, our topic for today is Rattle That Lock, the new David Gilmour solo album. It actually came out on September 18th, 5 weeks ago from the day that we are recording this. So it is fairly recent. It's David's fourth studio album. It's his first since On an Island in 2006, first studio album. So we're going to talk about the album, and we're going to talk about all the songs in it. And we also, got our hands on the deluxe edition. So, at the end, we're going to be talking about all the things inside. So stay tuned for that. And Rattle That Lock. It's David Gilmour's new album. It was produced once again by David Gilmour and Phil Manzanera. Is that how you say it?
I think it's a Manzanera.
Okay, well, he can write to us and correct us.
Yeah, after he will no doubt listen to this at some point.
Yeah, and if he wants to bring David along with him, we won't mind. Anyway, so yeah, this album was produced by them. It was recorded in David's house board, the Astoria, along with some other studios like Abbey Road Studios, and it brought back some familiar players with David. He brought back Guy Pratt on bass, who is a great bass player.
Your boy Guy Pratt.
Thank you, Becca. That's what she always would say. And he also brought back David Crosby and Graham Nash on vocals, and I'm going to get into that because I'm a huge CSN fan. And he also brought a lot of relatively unknown players, at least for me. Like, I looked at the credits, and there were a lot of names that I didn't recognize. I know, Garrett, you're familiar with more of David Gilmour's solo career, so maybe some of those names sounded familiar if you looked at the credits or something.
Yeah, some of them did. We'll get into that as they arise.
Right, but just a little quick backstory. The album was in the works for a while. David had a lot of things going on, like The Endless River, which he should. That was a great product because we did a whole show about that. And there was tons of promotion. He was featured in Rolling Stone. He was on CBS for his first U.S. TV interview. There was an article in Mojo magazine, and he even gave them an exclusive cover of Here, There, and Everywhere in Mojo magazine to promote this album. So there was a ton of promotion, and the different ways you can get this album. There's the standard CD, there's a CD and DVD, CD and Blu-ray, and there's downloads with extra songs and videos, which we will talk about later. So yeah, Rattle That Lock. I know you didn't buy this up. You didn't hear any of this album until it actually came out. So what were your thoughts about it?
Well, I listened to it front to back as soon as I got it last month. And man, it's so good. Like, it's very different from On an Island, and yet very much, you can tell it's the same guy. You can tell it's a progression in the way he's making music, but there's so much new stuff on it that it's a bold new direction, really, for David, and it's something I'd love to hear more of.
Mm-hmm. I will agree with that. That when I picked this album, I didn't go rush out to buy it. I kind of just I casually went to it. But that I went in this album as unbiased as possible because I am not that familiar with Gilmour's solo work. I mean, I prepared myself for this album listening to On an Island. So I kind of went in there just with that in mind going in there. And for overall, I thought it was a very nice sounding album and very enjoyable album. And the funny part is, I listened to it maybe about 2 or 3 times when I got it. I kind of put it away. And then, when we decided that we were going to do this album for a review, I said, okay, great idea. And the funny thing is, especially when doing the review, there were a lot of things this album that I came to really enjoy. And we'll get into that album. And I just have a few things about the album in general. I do agree with you. There are things that sound Gilmour-esque, that sound Floyd-esque, and there are some sounds that don't, which I actually like a lot more. And I try not to compare a new product when it comes out because, in my opinion, it's just not that fair. But there were a couple sounds and artist sounds that came to mind, and that's just gonna happen.
Sure.
So as you know, I went in unbiased, but I did kind of go into this album a little bit. Uh, what's the word? I mean, Gilmour has some. I want to say he has a formula for studio albums. He usually has 10 songs. His last two studio albums did About Face and On an Island. They had 10 songs. With Gilmour and with Gilmour Floyd, you're gonna get like one or two instrumentals, and you
get three on this one.
And you get three. So it was kind of funny. I did kind of going in knowing what I expected, but I think the most important thing that I want to bring up, and I forgot to mention this in our Endless River podcast, is that Gilmour and even Pink Floyd, they are a band, and he is a guy who at this point in his career, he has nothing to lose.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, because I wanted to say he has nothing to prove, but he can still prove he's great, and that's totally cool. But at this point, he has nothing to lose. I'm not going to give away my rating just yet, but even if my rating for this album wasn't as good as maybe it should have been, it's still cool just to see him do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So, any more thoughts on the album, or should we just go ahead and get into the songs?
Let's do it, man.
All right. The album begins with an instrumental called 5 a.m. It is not an outtake from Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. That was I swear to God, that was the first thing when I saw that track, the song title.
Yeah, me too.
Tell me you didn't think of it. It's not an outtake from Pros and Cons. It's a good instrumental. The thing that I like about it is that it doesn't sound like noodling, like other opening instrumentals have, like Castellorizon and Cluster One and Things Left Unsaid. This one, to me, has an actual song with a melody, and that really surprised me. But at the same time, I really liked that. At the same time, in my opinion,
I will say, yeah, it is definitely more structured than Castellorizon, which is from On an Island, by the way. I like Castellorizon better, though, because it just feels more powerful, really, than this one. A lot more emotionally charged. Not to say that this one isn't emotionally charged at all. I really do enjoy 5 a.m. It's a great way to introduce you. Like, if you've never heard a Gilmour album, this is what he's all about. Is soulful, amazing guitar solos, usually over an orchestra. This time it's got an acoustic accompaniment, which I thought was really cool. Really added a lot to it. Yeah, overall, really solid number to start off the album, and I listened to it and I was like, all right, I want to hear more of this.
Mm-hmm. And even if you have heard a Gilmour album like we have, it's a very familiar start anyway.
A lot of times it's reassuring so that you don't get something like About Face with just stuff everywhere on the musical spectrum that it becomes hard to classify what it is.
Yeah. The things that I love most about 5 a.m., like I said, it is a great opener. I love the rakes at the beginning of the electric solo. For those of you who don't know, a rake is simply where he kind of it's hard to explain this on audio, but just imagine him holding a guitar, audience. Just imagine that, where he takes his pick and will kind of scrape it across the strings to get to that note. It's the bring, bring. That, I believe, is called a rake. Guitar.
Or where he scrapes the pick over a couple of muted strings before getting to the one he's going to play.
That's the one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I love. He does like three of them in a row, and it really sounds good. I love the rakes, and I love the thing that I love about this song, and it occurs a few more in some other tracks, and I'll get to that. But they're like these like subtle keyboard pulses in this song, like bum bum bum, almost like something trying to like get through. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but it's like something trying to get through, and it's played by David himself. I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, he plays keyboards on almost every song on the album.
Right. So that just really made it was very haunting. It was very, like I said, I can't put my finger on it, but it appears more on the album. So I'll get to that when we get to the other tracks. So we good on 5 a.m.
Yeah,
All
let's
right.
move on to the title track.
All right, title track is "Rattle That Lock." It was the first single, and it was something that came out. It was the first teaser, and then it became the first single. I will say when the first teaser came out, it was just the chorus, just rattle that lock and lose those chains, 15 seconds of it, and I said, "Oh, I will be honest. When I first heard that little teaser, the chorus, I was not impressed, and
Mm.
and I'll get to why later. But let's just get into the song. I've liked it more and more. So Garrett, why don't you start on Rattle That Lock?
Yeah, what I really like about this song is the story behind it, how it came to be composed and written. It's based on a train station jingle that David heard while he was in France, I believe. And he next time it came up on the train he was riding, he held up his phone to the speaker and recorded the chime. And then he built the song around that short, simple melody. And that's just the coolest to me is hearing those little stories about I heard this one thing and then it became this song that it's so good.
Right, which I gave him mega props. It's for writing a whole song based off a simple four-note train station jingle.
Yeah,
So I give him
yeah.
I give him mega props about that. Yeah, and I also give him mega props for the choir that's used in this song, because the choir, if you watch the EPK, they talk about how the choir is conducted by a woman who teaches choirs in prisons. In fact, the choir that was used in the song used a couple of actual former prisoners. So, I mean, if you want to be a little speculative about that, rattle that lock and prisoner, it kind of fits.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
right. So,
And yeah, the choir, the backing vocals in this whole song are really, really strong, in especially in the bridge section.
right. The is that the So Long Sin and Au Revoir Chaos section?
No, that's the chorus. I was talking about the really where most of the band falls away and you get this really floaty uh just it's all backing vocals the whole way, the
Right,
choir.
right, right. I know what you mean now. I know what you mean.
Hmm.
Right. That's actually the So Long Sin and Au Revoir Chaos. Those are like my favorite parts of the song because I'll get into my criticism in just a second. But there's a lot of things about the verse that I don't know, just set up a cool. I don't know, something really cool with this track. My one criticism is that I think the chorus could have been rewritten, and I'll explain why. Because the chorus is just rattle that lock and lose those chains, just those two lines over and over and over again. Personally, I would have loved to have heard, rattle that lock, lose those chains, rattle that lock, let's do it again. Just something, just to rhyme with chains. I don't know. I just feel like the chorus, just those two lines, and you hear it, three or four times in the song, could have been rewritten. So that's why when I first got that teaser of the chorus, I was not that impressed.
Yeah, I understand that. And now that you pointed out, I'm saying, yeah, that could have been better. But if that's the only thing about the song that you're not particularly enthused about, it's still a really good song.
Yeah, I love the jingle riff. I think it's catchy, which is something you wouldn't think about unless you heard it over and over on a song like this. I, I, I love the jingle. I love the groove of it. Just like I will admit, when this song comes on and I'm in the car, like I will bop my head to it. I know, like I said, I have some problems with it lyrically, but I love the groove on it. I love parts of the lyrics, and I think I love those three more than the actual song itself. That's just my take on it. And on a cool side note, and I hope I pronounced this right, Michael Bumendel, who is the writer of the Ford Note jingle, gets a songwriting credit.
Yeah, I think they just did that to be safe so they don't get sued.
Yeah, yeah. So,
But
oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, you're totally right about the groove, the beat of it. It's totally funky and totally catchy. Um, Most of the song, especially in the bridge section, as I mentioned, it's there's parts of it that just kind of float above the surface of it that I really enjoy. I really like the guitar work in it, whether it's just the rhythm section or especially the solos are particularly blistering on this one. Um, those drums are really strong. I loved it.
I will agree with that.
And I really like the way it ends too, where it kind of just crossfades into this sort of industrial sounding percussion
Yeah,
at the end.
totally. I mean, I totally reminds me of Billy Joel's Allentown. For any of our listeners, that's a song that takes place in a coal mining town, and it ends with that sound of the machines in the background. Totally, listening to Rattle That Lock totally put me back in Allentown. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. And one more thing, they've mentioned a couple of times in various places that the lyrics to Rattle That Lock are based on John Milton's epic poem Paradise Lost, which is the story of the angel Lucifer being cast down from heaven and becoming Satan. So that's interesting. It's still hard for me to pin down what exactly the message and the theme of the song are.
Mm-hmm.
I get the feeling though it's be who you're going to be, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think of it more, not just that, but I think of it as like trying to break free of fill in the blank, whatever you want. I mean, in this song, like I said, my favorite line of the song is "So long, sin, our chaos. If there's a heaven, it can wait." Just the idea of breaking free from whatever it may be, whether it be chaos or love or just whatever. And rattle that lock and lose those chains. That's at least what I get. The idea of breaking free and trying to be what you want to be.
Yeah, don't let anything hold you down, hold you back.
Yeah. So overall, I like the song. Like I said, I think the lyrics could have been a little bit rewritten, but the more I hear it, the more I groove along to it in the car. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, shall we move on?
Sure.
All right. So we'll move on to Faces of Stone. This is probably my favorite track on the album. I will say that after hearing the album, 8 or 9 times to prepare for the show, there's something about this track that stands out for me. The piano in the beginning is so lovely.
Oh, yeah, it is heartbreaking. Some of the saddest and simplest piano that I've ever heard.
Once again, played by David, and it's so spaced out, like the notes he plays, that you just don't know where it's going. But I like that for some reason.
Yeah.
Because like you could think it could build this very quiet song, and then David comes in with his acoustic guitar, and and like I mentioned earlier, where I said I don't want to compare things, but I simply have to. This is probably David's working class hero.
I was thinking that too.
Did you really?
Very sort of Scotsy, folksy sort of thing
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Yeah. We'll get into that. Yeah, it's in 3/4 time, just like working class hero.
I would have thought it'd been 6/8, but same difference.
Yeah, 6/8, 3/4, 12/8. They're all the same. It's on acoustic guitar. It's in a minor key, just like Working Class Hero. And there's also hammer-ons, which if you play guitar, that's the da-down, da-down. Those are called hammer-ons. That's happening in this song and Working Class Hero. Just all four of those things just make me go, this is David's Working Class Hero, and I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the thing, okay, I want to bring this up because this is what I thought the first time before I knew anything about the song. David admitted the lyrics were kind of written about when he was thinking about when his mother passed away. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Okay.
But the first time I heard it, did you by any chance think the lyrics were about Roger?
No.
Really?
No, I was thinking something more along the lines of a romantic breakup, generic romantic breakup song.
Okay. See, I just want to touch on why I thought it was Roger real quickly, because there's all the lines about you talked of your past, but the years have dried like the leaves. I wore a mask designed by you, the wall live cover, and I believed every word I heard. At least that's what I tried to do. Roger giving him songs to sing. There was just a lot of things in the song that made me go, is that a dig at Roger? But of course, David admitted it was more about his mother. But I don't know. I still want to think he's hiding something.
He might be. It's not our place to say you're writing about this, but I mean, there have been moments in the past, like we mentioned on the Division Bell, that pulls apart. It was about Roger and Sid Barrett.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, in the end, I don't think it really matters because the song is just so friggin' good.
Yeah, the song is great, and the last thing I'll say is that this is a song David wrote himself. Paulie didn't help out with the lyrics, so that led me to believe this was something very very personal, and it sounds like it's something very very personal, but it led me to believe about what I thought that it was written about Roger. But of course, David would never say it was if it actually was. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. The thing that well, there's a lot of things I love about this song. Like I said, it's my favorite song, but you mentioned earlier it starts out acoustic and it does, but I love the accordion flourishes in between every verse. It's an excellent addition. It doesn't just make it a simple acoustic ballad, and it just I don't know, it just makes me feel good to listen to it.
Yeah, he in the middle of this, terribly sad, amazing song, he just brings in a polka band.
I love
and they all do this big long waltz thing, and it's ah, it shouldn't work. It shouldn't work, but it does.
I love it, and I love this song is so complex. It has a lot of different parts. You have the piano beginning, you have the simple acoustic beginning of the actual melody, and then you have the add-on, the piano, the accordion, the drums, and then you have the polka bit,
The
and then
clarinet.
the clarinet, exactly. And then and then you go back to this. This song is just structured so I don't know brilliantly that every time I hear it, it just makes me smile because it's so complex but strung together so well. And like I said, this is probably my favorite track on this album for that reason.
Yeah. Again, this one has some. You mentioned the drums; they're strong here as well. This whole album really has a really strong presence in the drums.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll agree with that.
the the bridge is really nice change in tone. It just, like you said, it kind of comes out of nowhere and it shouldn't work, but it fits anyway.
Right,
And
and
of
that
course, there are some killer guitar solos. There's a short one in the middle, and one to end it out, and they're just great.
yeah. Well, you can't go wrong with David playing guitar in the middle of a song. You just can't. Oh my god, I could go on about this song, but should we move on?
Sure, sure.
All right.
It's one of my favorites too, by the way.
Yeah. Next is A Boat Lies Waiting. This one is let's just get it out of the way. It's a song for Rick Wright.
Absolutely.
And if Becca were here, she would be screaming and she wouldn't be able to talk about this song.
Yeah, after I listened to the album the first time through, the first thing I did was call Becca and say, "Have you listened to the new album yet?" She says, "No, why?" I said, "There's one of the tracks that you absolutely have to listen to." And as of we recording this, I don't think she's listened to the album yet. And she's gonna kick herself for not listening to it because this is one of my favorite tracks on the album.
Yes, especially if she listens to this review and goes, "Oh, damn it, I have to hear it now."
Yeah, yeah. Becca, if you're listening now, stop listening so we don't spoil anything for you and go listen to that song.
Right. So why don't we get into spoilers? What do you think about A Boat Lies Waiting? General thoughts.
Okay, first off, I love how it begins with this really light and lazy slide solo over the keyboard pad, and then there's some piano bits here and there. It sounds a lot like the Endless River. It's really the only moment on this album that I think is reminiscent of Endless River.
There's one song later, but I'll bring it up when we get to that.
Okay.
But I know exactly where you're going with that.
But yeah, it totally sounds like Ebb and Flow or something else.
I was thinking more of Anacina because I know that's a track for Rick that was on Endless River, and that's a heavy piano-led song too.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, when the piano really comes in and you're listening to the sounds of the waves over at the sides of apparently it's a boat that they're in, it's just this great sunny sort of feeling in this song, and then you just hear this little voice sample of Rick saying, what was he saying?
I don't know. I was actually hoping you would tell me.
Oh God, I think it's something along the lines of, it's like sailing into the sea.
Yeah,
it's nothing.
It's a very very short audio excerpt.
Yeah, it's like a sentence and a half.
Right, because I was hoping maybe you could tell me where that was from, because they did that with Things Left Unsaid. They took some interviews from Live at Pompeii, and I wouldn't have known that unless you had told me that. So I don't know
I
where
bet
this. I
I
don't.
bet this is something from the 80s or 90s when Rick was doing a lot of sailing in Greece.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Mm.
Apparently, after you watch the EPK, this is actually an old, not an old song, but the piano part is very old. It's been around for I think like 18 years or something like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Gilmour said he had this piece. He didn't really know what to do with it, so he just put it down on tape in his living room, which is why you hear his son cry at the beginning. That little that's his son in the background. And you also hear this sound like feet rustling and people talking in the background. That's in his living room as he was trying to record this piano piece. So I didn't know that. So the first time I heard that, I thought, who left the studio mic on? But but yeah, this is an old piano piece. He said he didn't really know what to do with it, and then over the years, it kind of it became a filled out song, and Polly wrote the lyrics about Rick, and it's just beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, especially um, when you have Crosby and Nash coming in on the backing vocals.
Yes, I mean you listeners can't see this. I am holding up two fists in pure awesomeness right now.
Exactly.
Because I'm a huge Crosby, Stills, and Nash fan, and I know that they've worked together in the past. And if you watch the EPK, there is some footage of them, recording their vocals. And I just, on paper, if you had told me that Crosby, Nash, and Gilmour sung together, I would be like, that kind of works. But listening to it, I hear it, and I'm just like, that is just so wonderful. It's like if David Gilmour was a member of CSN. But yeah, you're right. I love the harmonies on this. Their vocals are very prominent. You know what I would love, just on a quick side note about,
Yeah.
is that I would love, and I don't think it would happen, but they've worked together enough in the past. I'd love for Crosby and Nash to say, you know what, Gilmour, you're finished with your album. You want to just come work with us for a while, and they make a whole album. But I don't think it would happen because let's be honest, I don't think David could just like if Crosby and Nash wrote a song, usually they're the ones that sing it. I can't see Gilmour just doing backing vocals.
No, he probably wouldn't.
No, if anything, he would play, but he wouldn't sing.
Yeah, that's probably what happened.
Right. I mean, it could happen that Crosby and Nash just do an album by them and David comes to play, but I can't. I would love it, but I can't see the three of them, Crosby, Gilmour, and Nash, making a whole album.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. The vocals are just beautiful. I love the lyrics too. We haven't even talked about the lyrics yet in this track. They're just really, really.
It really
great.
taps into the imagery of sailing and the ocean, and how I believe the lyrics compare Rick to an ocean, and how there was so much in this man, and yet he stayed relatively still and calm on the surface.
Mm-hmm. And especially since they had just done the Endless River, and there were all if you looked at the book, there was like all these images of sailing and boats and oceans, and so it kind of ties it all together in a way. I just love it.
Yeah, whenever I listen to this song, I get this image of Rick at the helm of this sailboat that all of them are on, and they're just kind of quietly playing the song while he's at the helm, and he's handed off the keyboards to someone else to play while he sails the boat.
Right.
It's a nice little image.
Yeah. I love that. All right. So is that all we have to say about that one?
Well, I did want to point out that this one is unique, I think, to this album and a lot of recent songs, in that there is no guitar solo on this song, which is...
You are right. I just now remembered that.
Yeah, pretty much every song that David has written with Pink Floyd and by himself since the Division Bell has had a guitar solo in it, and this one doesn't. And I think that's really to emphasize that it's not about me, it's about Rick, sort of message he wants to send.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really touching because if you think about it, the last album that he made, On an Island, Rick played on it, and we'll get to this later, but you see from the Barn Jam videos on this box set and on all the other things, you can see that David and Rick have a real strong love for one another. And on one hand, I want to think that when he did On an Island, Rick was still with him. Now this is his first solo album, so he wants to pay tribute. Because I know he and Nick paid tribute to him in Endless River, so I think this was his chance to just do it by himself.
Absolutely. And what I think is interesting about this one as well, just on a personnel level, is that we have David Crosby and Nash on this one singing about Rick, and on an island, the song they did with Crosby and Nash was "The Blue," which was the only song that Rick played on the album.
That's right. Yeah, tying it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right. So should we move on?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't spend too much time on that one. So all right. So let's get to the next song. It's called "Dancing Right in Front of Me." This to me, like when I saw the title, I thought it was gonna be very breezy and dancey, but no, it's like it's a strong, angry song. I have to tell you something. This last week, when preparing for do this show, the two things I listened to were this album and a lot of George Harrison music. So this sounds to me like a George Harrison angry song with all the chords and the guitar work. I don't know. Listening to those two, simultaneously, just made me think. Just I don't know. Taking inspiration. This is written by David by himself, and wow, what got under his skin in this song? You know?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. You don't really see much from Gilmour in the way of angry songs. Like, really, the angriest thing I think he's put out in years was "What Do You Want From Me."
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. This is a really interesting turn for this one, and you can hear it, especially in his vocals, which I think are the best on this song out of any on the album.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm gonna agree with that.
and the way he's just sort of taunting and teasing whoever he's speaking to the whole way. Uh, then when the orchestra comes in on the really heavy parts of the riff, it's just like, oh damn,
Yeah.
dude, back off.
Yeah, I love that interlude between the verses, the dun dun dun. It's just like, okay, David, just okay, just do your thing. It's just and David is we've seen interviews with him and he's one of the most humble guys I've ever seen and I don't think he'd ever say what inspired him to make this song really.
Yeah, probably not.
But and again, I want to bring this up because I talked about in 5 a.m. There's these little pulses throughout like in the little interlude between the verses, and the dun dun and the ooh backing vocals in the middle. Oh, I love that. And like I said, he does it multiple times throughout this album, and I just love it every time. And I will say one thing, getting to a point you made earlier about the middle of Faces of Stone, where it kind of has that polka bit in the middle. This has the most bizarre middle part to a song in the entire album.
There's a bit where the bridge that has vocals, and you're like, oh, this is a little jazzy. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. And then he goes back to the normal parts of the song, and then toward the end of it, it's just a piano solo, just straight out of a jazz bar.
We interrupt this song to bring you a jazz band.
It's like, wait, what?
And the cool thing is, like, I seriously heard it, and I didn't look at the credits, so I was like, oh, that's cool, jazzy. Like, that's cool, Jules Holland piano. I looked in the credits. That's not Jules Holland on piano. That's David himself.
Whoa, that is?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So I'm like, damn, dude can play.
Yeah, man.
And again, that middle like non sequitur is kind of funny, just like a George Harrison song. So that's why I'm drawing those parallels. I don't. It's just I'm laughing about it now, just thinking about it.
Yeah, that's a big theme on this album. Is a lot of it keeps you guessing a lot of the time because there are multiple songs, not every song. Multiple songs establish a tone and then immediately upset it.
Mm-hmm. And the thing, I'll get to this in some other tracks later on, but like I said earlier, some sounds on this album to me sound very Gilmour past or sound Gilmour Floyd-ish, and there are some things that don't, which I said I like better. And just imagine like if David Gilmour was still making a Pink Floyd album, I don't think they would do something like put a jazz break in the middle of a song. This is something that he could only do on a solo album. In my opinion.
Probably.
In my opinion.
I think you're pretty close to right on that.
Right, because since it's just his name attached to it, he's free. It's his own project. He can do whatever he wants with it. So I got to give him applause just for that jazz break. Just makes me go, whoa, okay, I like it. All right, that's pretty much all I have to say about Dancing Right in Front of Me. Like I love the angry bit in it, the dun dun dun, the like jazz. Like this one has. It's structured differently, just like Faces of Stone, and this one kind of makes it all work too. And this is one of my highlights on the album, if you couldn't tell.
Oh yeah, it's a great one.
Yeah,
Another one of my favorites.
yeah. Anything else we want to add about Dancing Right in Front of Me?
I'm good.
All right. So with that, we're talking about Rattle That Lock, and we're going to take a quick break right here on Triple Threat. And I need to turn my fan on because I'm sweating.
Hey guys, it's Tom. Just a reminder that if you like what you hear on Triple Threat and you want to be notified when new episodes come out, then be sure to click that big red subscribe button on our YouTube channel. We upload at least one episode a month, so be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. Okay, back to the show.
And we're back on Triple Threat talking about David Gilmour's new solo album, Rattle That Lock. And we are on track 6, which is called In Any Tongue. Garrett, I'm going to start with you on your thoughts about this track.
This is a really interesting one. I mean, it's one of my least favorites, to tell you the truth.
Is that what you mean by Is that what you mean by interesting?
It's a demanding song. It demands a lot of your attention, and it's the longest song on the album.
Mm-hmm.
It is definitely by far the saddest or most depressing one. Is probably a better way to say it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll agree with that. You're right. It's 6:46. It's the longest song on the album, and this is. I wanted you to start with this one in case you had anything, positive. And I do have some positives, but this is possibly my least favorite track. It's a little too slow, but at the same time, what other tempo could you use for this sad song?
Yeah, this song is all about sorrow and regret and separation, and the tone is set immediately as soon as the band enters. You get the sort of eerie whistling at the beginning, and there's a bit of orchestra droning, but then the band comes in, you're like, oh, okay, here's what we're doing now. Oh boy.
Yeah, I still don't know how to feel about the whistle. Like, I listened to it a few times, and I just kept thinking, and I still don't know where this track is gonna go with that strange whistling part, because it doesn't fit like all the other tracks. They start with something that segue into something. I don't know. For me, the whistling just felt out of place. I don't know. There's no other word to describe it. I don't hate it. But
I don't either. It's
right.
On this song, it's like saying it's like saying it's the gold coin that has the most dirt on it. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, but okay. So I kind of bashed on it, but now I'll talk some things I like about this song. It has a great line. There's a great line in the song. No sugar is enough to bring sweetness to his cup. Like, to me, that's a great line. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Something about that line stands out. The high vocal parts after when it gets quiet. When I first heard it, it was a little scary because it just comes at you just like that. And I don't know if because you got the digital version of the booklet, but there's a picture in the booklet of him at the microphone closing his eyes. Looks like he's singing really loud. That's what I imagine. That's what the song that he was recording.
Right.
The how can I? I mean, I can't do it, but but again, there are these like pulsing piano parts, and like right before every time he sings that part, the dun dun, again played by Gabriel, actually, his son.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
He mentions his son in this song.
Yeah, it's the first time his son's ever played on his record, I believe.
Yeah.
And so I just love that. Again, they did it in 5 a.m. and other songs, that pulsing piano. I just love it. But yeah, you're right. The song is a little too long for me. Like I said, it's the longest song on the album. And like I said, it's a little too slow. But then again, what tempo could you use for this? And so this one, I'm just kind of meh on this. There are a few things I like about it, but not one of my favorites.
Yeah, like I said, it's not a bad song. There are no bad songs in this album.
Right.
It's just, I mean, there are only a few times when I want to really go on this soul-searching journey that this song represents. It's not something I'm going to come back to a lot. Although I will say that the guitar solo at the end is one of the most powerful on this album, and I like that part a lot.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Like we said at the beginning, guitar playing is top-notch. It's just incredible. So, all right, so should we move on?
Yeah.
All right, so we're moving on to the second instrumental. This is called Beauty. Now, this is what I was alluding to earlier when you said, this track fits on Endless River. This, to me, is very Endless River-ish. The way that the piano has reverb and echo on it, it has this effect, just like the piano in Endless River, mainly louder than words. And also, the first 2 minutes of this are kind of noodle-ish. So before it actually after the 2 minute mark it becomes an actual instrumental with a song and melody and things like that. So that's why this one to me sounds very Endless River-ish because that album was full of noodles. In fact, they even had a song on Noodle Street.
Hello.
But this one I like it, but I do have a problem with this one. To me, because it sounds so Endless River-ish, and maybe I'm just a biased Floyd fan, this one doesn't stand out to me as being a David Gilmour solo track.
Well, I definitely agree with you now that you mentioned it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm looking at all my notes, I'm like, yeah, this is basically the Endless River in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's pretty much an outtake, almost.
Yeah, it kind of feels like that, especially with the guitar riff, I think about halfway through, that gives it its structure. That's an awesome guitar riff, by the way.
Yes, it is.
And I do agree with you about the guitar and the piano, the tone of it. And I like how in the beginning there's sort of call and response between the guitar and the piano.
Mm-hmm.
Nice interplay that really complements each instrument.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely one of the more atmospheric songs on the album until the riff comes in.
Right.
Yeah. It's actually one of my favorites, though.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think it has the best guitar solo on the album.
And I should mention, I'm saying, oh, it sounds Floyd-ish, but once the guitar riff actually comes in and it starts to, the whole band comes in, that's when I really like the song. The first 2 minutes of it are kind of noodle-ish and put me in that Endless River vibe, and then that comes in and it's like, hey, you're not listening to Floyd, you're listening to a David Gilmour solo album.
Right.
So that's why I said this track kind of bothers me a little bit, that it kind of shakes me like that. But it's not a bad song.
No, absolutely not. In fact, if there's a problem with this song, I'd say that the problem is that it fades out too early. I want to hear more of that.
That is a good point. Yeah, it's not that long, and since this one is quite different from 5 a.m. Yeah, you're right. You would like it to go on a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're moving on to the next song. This is called "The Girl in the Yellow Dress." This was the second single, but I didn't hear it until I heard the album. When I heard the album, this was like the big surprise for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's I said earlier, "Faces of Stone" is probably my favorite. This is probably the coolest song on the album for me because it just makes me smile. Because for those of you who haven't heard it, and you should if you listen to this podcast, this is basically David doing his best jazz vocal in a jazz club, in a nutshell. No, and I love that, and I have it here in my notes. David doesn't have to follow formula.
Absolutely.
We talked about, since this is his album, he can do whatever he wants, and I love it, and I'll go on. But Garrett, "Girl in the Yellow Dress," what do you think of this cool track?
Definitely another one of the standouts on this album. If only just because it comes out of nowhere, just being a total jazz number. I definitely think with this and with what was it, "Dancing Right in Front of Me."
Yeah, little break in the middle of that.
Yeah. I definitely think that since Rick died, and his favorite music has always been jazz. Rick. I think since Rick died, David is like, you know what? I'm going to try out this stuff and see what he loved about it so much. And apparently he found something he liked, because he's included a lot of jazz elements in this album.
Mm-hmm. I just can't help but smile and just think, David's getting to be an old fart. This is his kind of music anyway.
Yeah, kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
And this song definitely, it's a great, very chill number. You can just see it happening in a jazz bar somewhere.
I can see him. I can see him in the booth, just sitting on a stool in front of the microphone. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't think that's what he did, but
No.
but if you ever see people recording, in those kind of booths, where the microphone hangs down, that's just the image that I get with this song. He's all the musicians are out there and he's in the booth singing. And actually, if you look at the credits, a different set of musicians on this track.
Yeah, I think because he had such a radical change in tone on this one that he wanted to make sure he got the best jazz musicians to come in and play on it. And some of, you get a lot of no names in this one, but you also see a lot of really all-star players. You've got Jules Holland, you mentioned, who plays the piano on this one.
Yeah, he actually shows up on this track.
David's old friend Robert Wyatt comes in to do cornet, which is trumpet, basically. Robert Wyatt, who was in The Soft Machine, been a friend of the Floyd and David for years. Even have, I thought this was really cool, I didn't know it until today, Rado Close. The name isn't familiar to a lot of people, but Rado Close, when he was known as Bob, was actually one of the original members of Pink Floyd when it was founded in 1965.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. You have to wonder if Pink Floyd was going to be like a jazz R&B band or something.
I mean, they kind of were. If you listen to Piper at the Gates of Dawn, you listen to Power Talk H, it's a total just jazz piano on top of weird guitar and things.
I can see that. I never thought about it that way. But yeah, you're right. And also this brings in, we're using, an actual double bass on this song, not just electric bass, played by Chris Lawrence. I don't know the name, but his bass playing's great.
Yeah, good on you.
Yeah, and Colin Stenson plays the sax. And
my God, this guy is amazing. Somebody hire him immediately. I thought it was Dick Perry. No. I was kind of disappointed, but also really pleasantly surprised that it wasn't Dick Perry.
Yeah, I mean, believe me, if Becca was with us, she'd be throwing her fist in the air going, saxophone! and for good reason. The sax solo is just, it's just magnificent. And the thing that, this is David, I believe this is David and Polly writing this song. And the things, and some of the lyrics are just total typical jazz cliches, but I love it. She flips a pack of cigarettes. He doesn't smoke, but he takes one nonetheless. And then you get that sound from the lighter.
Yeah, I thought that was a really nice touch.
And so what is the poor boy supposed to do? I mean, that is a line that has probably been used in a lot of jazz songs, but I totally don't care.
Yeah.
And it's just, and also just think about this. David, this is David doing, basically he wrote his own standard in a way. And if he could, and I almost think he could do a standards album, but it would have to be his own songs. I can't see David doing The Way You Look Tonight. I just can't. I mean, David hasn't done a ton of cover songs. I mean, look through his career, he's done, a few handful. But I mean, that's why I said he could, because he's done it with this song. He could do a standards-like type album, but in my opinion, they'd have to be his own songs.
Yeah, I'd really like to hear, David Gilmour just release a jazz album out of nowhere.
Yeah, even if it was like Endless River and half of it is instrumentals.
I'm down with that.
Yeah,
there's a lot more instrumentals in jazz than a lot of people would realize.
So, David, if you're listening, because we know you are, please do that.
Also, I love you.
Yeah, and give us a credit in the album that we were your inspiration.
Yes, indeed.
We don't even have to collect royalties, but some money would be nice. Anyway, all right. I will say this: I was listening to this song in the car today while driving around, and the only thing that I have just one tiny minor quabble with the song is it's a little too long. Meaning, in the car, I kind of forgot that it was playing, which is not necessarily a good thing. But if I wasn't in the car, if I was talking to somebody and this was playing in the background, then the length of the song is fine.
Yeah,
but
there's also we're going to get into a lot of the mentioning of the bonus tracks and stuff later, but the orchestral version from the deluxe packages is a slightly shorter version. You might want to check that one out.
I did. I heard it before we signed on to do this show. I like it, and yeah, you're right. It is a lot shorter, but they really basically took out the jazz instruments and just replaced it with an orchestra. But I prefer this album version.
Okay.
All right. So let's move on to the second to last track. This is called Today. It opens with a choir, sounds like a lullaby, and then this big funky groove comes in, and you just don't know where the song is gonna go.
Yeah, man. Again, another example of this album just setting a tone and immediately upsetting it. Because we start with a church choir, like and we're not saying it's just like 5 people. No, this is a big ass choir
Yeah, only to be.
that David is leading,
Yeah.
and then it just gives way to this '80s disco dance jam.
Yes, I love it. Sorry. I had to freak out because the first time I heard this I was expecting to build the choir and then maybe like a little like one acoustic guitar and then build, but no, it just 0 to 100 just like that.
Yeah, you get this like kind of thin, dirty sounding guitar.
Yeah.
And this really funky bass line. It's just like, wait, what the hell?
Like that groove. I just love the groove to it.
Yeah, and the drums on this again, really strong drums, but they're totally straight out of a disco club.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I have in my notes, and I have to read it because I said every artist has a song that sounds cool because it doesn't sound like something they usually do. And for me, this is that song on this album. David doesn't quite do a disco whatever, and and all the harmonies when he does "What a Day It's Been" with all of those harmonies, it's just like whoa. Like this is probably my second favorite song on the whole album, just because of just how cool it is. And also, fun fact: if you look at the credits, Polly sings backup on this song.
Yes, she does.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but is this her first time singing on record with Dick David?
No, she was doing backing vocals on "Smile" on an island.
Oh, okay. I'll have to go back and listen to that one because when I saw in the credits, like, oh wow, Polly gets a backing vocal credit.
Yeah, I think there's video footage for recording her vocals.
Cool. One last thing I want to say about this track, because during the break, you and I were talking about Genesis. This instrumentally, to me, sounds like a Collins Genesis song from the Collins era.
A little bit.
Just that groove. Dun, 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 dun. Like if I just heard the instrumental, I'd say, huh, what Genesis song is that? Like if I
think it's a little too disco for Genesis.
Yes,
I definitely see where you're coming from.
Yes, you're right. This is more like Genesis proggy, but with a disco groove.
Sure.
And if you couldn't tell, I love it.
Yeah. I think it's a really good one. It's not one of my favorites, but I think probably my favorite bit about it is the lyrics and how it's got this great message of it's living for today instead of dwelling in the past or worrying about the future. Just focus on where you are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And also, in case you weren't thinking this was a disco-ish song, it has an orchestra that comes in occasionally to do little bits with it, and like, yeah, you can't really separate this from the Bee Gees now, can you?
Yeah, no, you really can't. David, we love you. All right.
What a joker, right?
Yeah. So, anything else about today?
No, I'm good.
All right. So let's. The last track on the album is called "And Then." This, I will say, this came as a surprise because the transition from today to "And Then" was kind of like rough the first time I heard it, because you get this really up tempo and then all of a sudden you're down here for the next track. But the more I listened to it, the more I wasn't bothered by it. I just wanted to say that first time it was a little bit rough transition. But basically this is "And Then," and basically this is like a reprise of 5 a.m. It's a reprise, but it's longer and it's got more instruments on it. It's got bass and drums. It's okay, but I'll get to that in a second. What do you think about the closer, "And Then"?
Yeah, I like it more than 5 a.m. Because there's more going on. I feel like the playing is better. I like hearing the band and the interplay between David's guitar and the band. I really like the acoustic guitar solo he does at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You know me, I will go freaking nuts over David playing an acoustic guitar solo.
Mm-hmm. Go see High Hopes live in Gdansk.
Oh God, yes. And the soloing in this one particularly struck me as more soulful than the one in 5 a.m. and in most of the other tracks on the album. And of course, it ends with the sounds of a crackling fire. And that was a nice sort of, I'm going to curl up now and enjoy this song.
Oh, I thought. Oh, I didn't catch that. That was a fire. I thought it was more the vinyl record just still playing. But it could be either. But no, it's a nice touch. And when I said the song is okay, I do skip it because I've already heard it pretty much on this album. If this was a longer album, this probably would have been a better closer because you're remembering, this album's only like 45 minutes long. So you're already thinking, oh, I already heard that 40 minutes ago. But if this was an hour-long album, say, you'd be like, oh, I heard that an hour ago. Man, that's been a while. So so that's why I said this one I kind of skip because it's at the end and I've already heard it. But it's funny, I skip it, but I do like this one better than 5 a.m. because there's a lot more going on in it.
Mm-hmm.
But not a bad closer. I don't know. Maybe it just needs a few more repeat listens. But good closer.
So, I thought it was the perfect closer for this album.
Yeah. All right. So those are all the tracks on Rattle That Lock. Real quickly, we do want to talk about some of the things that come with the deluxe package. Comes with the album in 5.1. It has 4 video tracks, 4 audio tracks, 2 promo films, 4 documentaries, a 32-page hardback lyric and photo book, postcard, a poster, a plectrum, and a 48-page book of Paradise Lost.
For those of you who don't know, a plectrum is a guitar pick.
Yeah, that was just like I see that sticker and I'm like, what is that? And then you actually open it up. And this is what it looks like. For those of you who can't see it, I'm holding up to the phone for Garrett to see. It's not your typical guitar-shaped pick. It almost looks like a teardrop.
Oh, cool.
So, and it's embossed, but I'm still keeping it in the little bag. And then you get a postcard, which I'm going to open up right now. If I can get it open. Let's just hope it doesn't say "Wish You Were Here" in it. No, it says jazz, au club, Le Chat Noir, which I think is French. Which I think
Black Cat, I think.
Yeah, which I was about to say. I think it's French for "You paid too much for this." But no, so that's there. It's like a cool invitation. And then you get the poster, and the poster is it's actually kind of small for a poster. It's more horizontal than vertical, but it's double sided. On one half you get David and his electric there. And then on the other half, you get his tour picture for the tour he's going to be doing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's watercolor. For those of you, you can easily see it on David Gilmour's website. It's watercolored, and it's the same color, it's the same picture they're using to promote the tour coming up. And then you get the 40-page book, which I believe is probably the same in the digital download too. There's pictures and lyrics, and then there's credits at the back. There's even pictures of David and Polly in a train station. So that was probably where the Rattle That Lock inspiration came from, right there and then. And then the last thing you get, beside the CD and the DVD, is you get a replica of Book 2 of Paradise Lost by John Milton, which, as we mentioned, was the inspiration for Rattle That Lock. Now, to me, this is kind of overkill. I mean, it's not bad to have, but am I ever going to read this by itself, just Book 2? I'm not sure about that.
I mean, it's context.
Yes.
And I don't know. I feel I've read an adaptation of Paradise Lost, and Book 1 you wouldn't really be missing much by skipping, especially because it's written very dry British poetry.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, to me that was like a little bit of overkill, but if you like reading, then all power to you. All right. So anyway, let's talk about some of the bonus stuff. Now, the bonus audio includes 3 different versions of Rattle That Lock. They are the extended mix, the radio edit, and the extended radio dub. And then there's the Girl in the Yellow Dress orchestral version, which we talked about a little bit earlier. Have you had a chance to listen to any of these Rattle That Lock bonus songs?
Yeah, the extended version is really cool. It's got just, basically it just has a longer guitar solo at the end.
Well, for those of you who like David's playing, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Exactly. And, the radio edit just takes out, I think, a few more seconds of the guitar solo, so I don't listen to it much.
Mm-hmm.
However, the remix that was done by, I think it was Youth and a few others.
Yeah, it says here, Youth Mix.
Yeah. I listened to that a couple of times and I was like, I don't get it. It's
Mm. But to tie it into our show, Youth is who Paul McCartney has been working with for the Fireman project.
yeah.
So just tying that in there. This was a little bit. I didn't know how to feel about that because they did the same with the Endless River. You know, if you bought the bonus DVD or Blu-ray, you got the 3 tracks, but on the DVD only. So if you bought on iTunes, you had to go buy those 3 tracks separately, and they kind of do the same thing here, but they're available online, so you can easily just listen to them. And then there's the Rattle That Lock album in 5.1 surround. And then there's the Barn Jam. Now let's talk about this. Recorded and filmed in January 2007 with Guy Pratt, Steve DeStanislao. Sorry,
it's Steve DeStanislao, who was the tour drummer for David for a long time now.
Well, I'm sorry, Steve, if you're listening. And then you get David and Rick playing again.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Barn Jam 1, 2, 3, and 4, and this is an extension of. Was it the DVD for Gdansk that they had more Barn Jams on it, or
might be,
or was it
off the top of my head? It could be Remember That Night.
Yeah, it was one of those two. They had a few, so you get a few more of these. Have you had a chance to watch any of these yet?
Not these in particular, but I have seen some of the Barn Jams.
All right, so there's a few more of that. You get the Rattle That Lock and Girl in the Yellow Dress music video. You get a bit about the animators. Alistair and Jock and Danny Madden. Apologize if I mispronounced any of those. And then there's Polly Sampson and David Gilmour at the Boris House Festival of Writing and Ideas. And then there's the making of Rattle That Lock album, which that's the only thing I've watched. And I will say this, if you watch the little short interviews and EPKs that are on David Gilmour's YouTube channel, you pretty much string all of those together and you get the EPK. But of course, there are a few things in the EPK that are not online. So, but interesting DVD. So that's everything that's on there. So what do you say? We always do what we do and we rate this album.
All right, yeah, let's do it. What do you think, Tom?
It's funny, like I was thinking about this earlier today when I was thinking, oh God, how am I going to grade this album? Because it's funny, like I said earlier, when I got this album, I played it 2 or 3 times and then put it away. So if I say I don't go back to this album, that's because I have 800 other CDs in my collection. So if I don't say I go back to it, that just simply means I have a big collection. But obviously I went back to it for this review and I played it again and again and again. And so it kind of raised, my thoughts on the album. So I'm going to give the album, and I'll explain this later, I'm going to give the album the same grade I gave the Endless River, and I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. The reason is that I do have some faults. Like I said, Rattle That Lock's a little lazy lyrically in the chorus. I do think In Any Tongue's not that great, and I think it's a little long. There are a couple of, like minor quibbles. But I think the more I listen to it, the more it could go up to like a 9. But I'm thinking 8.5 because Endless River, like I said, is a great album, but I don't play it a lot. So I'm going to go 8.5 out of 10 for Rattle That Lock.
Yeah, I think for similar reasons, I'm going to go with 3.5 out of 5 Tardises on this one.
I think that's what you gave Endless River, too.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, and folks, we're not saying that, Pink Floyd is just the same as the Gilmour solo album. We just...
Absolutely not.
Go get both. But
if anything, I really think Rattle That Lock, more than any other studio album he's done, really lets everyone know that Gilmour isn't being tied down by the legacy that he has made with Pink Floyd. Mm-hmm. He is his own person. He makes his own music, and he's now started to explore new forms and new genres without fear.
Right, and even if you get the box set, there's a sticker on the cover that says David Gilmour, the voice and guitar of Pink Floyd. And I know that sticker's there to promote the album, but there are a lot of things that we talked about on this record that is so not the Pink Floyd sound. And those are the things that I think we've praised the most.
Yeah.
So
I mean, friggin', you won't find the Girl in the Yellow Dress on anything Floyd related.
No, Roger would reject that in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then steal it for his own album.
Yeah, probably.
All right. Well, sorry, Roger. Sorry, Roger. All right. So anyway, that's our talk of Rattle That Lock. What do you think of the album, listeners? Leave us comments and let us know. And just a few quick plugs. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do that at It's Only Tom. There's an underscore in between each of those words. And I also have a YouTube channel. There should be a link to that on our Triple Threat page. And Garrett has a Bandcamp site. Where can people find that?
I think it's at bandcamp.garretthiggs.com.
All right. So you look for his Pink Floyd covers album, and anything else to plug?
Yeah, check out my YouTube channel. I've done a couple of student films and a few other things on there, and I really liked them, so I put them on my YouTube channel.
All right. Anyway, so Garrett, thank you for joining me on Triple Threat today.
Thanks for talking to me, Tom. It's been a while.
And thank you so much for listeners, and we'll see you all next time. See ya.
Bye.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to our review of David Gilmour's Rattle That Lock, and be sure to like this episode, leave a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. We wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you all next time.
Just 1 second. Okay. Yeah.
Glad to see I'm not the only one who wrote notes.
Oh, if only you saw these up close. Okay.
You got Toy Story? Like you hadn't seen them before, or?
No, I physically have them on Blu-ray and DVD. I have the VHSs stored away in my closet, but I'm not going to pull those out.
Oh man.
No. So, all right. Let's get back on topic.
Well, do you hear they're making a fourth Toy Story?
Yeah, I've expressed my opinions about that on Facebook and Twitter. I'm just like, wasn't the third one supposed to end it?
Was it the last one?
Yeah.
It was very much the last one.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't quite have a problem with Toy Story 4.
Yeah, man, I'll watch Buzz and Woody do all day.
Yeah. All right, so let's get back on topic.
All right.